Here is the Homeland Security tanto knife made by Smith & Wesson. In general, Smith & Wesson knives can be a bit of a hit or miss. Some of their knives are cheap quality, others are pretty good. And this is definitely among the better ones. I was personally quite pleased with it. And you can find it for around $40. The steel is very good for the price range. It is 440C stainless steel with black powder coating, as you can see. And 440C has the highest carbon content among the 400 series. It is very hard, very corrosion resistant, has good edge retention. Of course, you can't compare it to higher price steel like VG10 or even carbon steel like 1095. But for the price range, it is excellent steel. As far as I know, it is the best steel among the 420 and 440 series. So you can't really complain about that. And also the handle scales are G10, which again is a very good material for that. And another good thing about it is that it has a very thick spine. Plus, it has a distal taper. So you can see it's very thick down here and becomes progressively thinner towards the end, which is always a very good feature. It makes it feel very good in the hand in terms of balance. It reduces some unnecessary weight while still keeping it very sturdy. And I mean, you can see, compared to my finger, this is one hell of a beefy blade. Unless you're doing something crazy like shoot it with a rifle, you should be perfectly fine. I don't see this breaking anytime soon under pretty much any circumstances. I have given it my usual rough durability testing routine and chopped some wood with it, batoned with it, and all kinds of hard use that you might do when you have this as a camping knife or survival knife, things of that nature if you don't have an axe. And it held up very well to all those tests, as is to be expected with a very sturdy, thick blade like that and pretty good quality steel. So I had no issues with that whatsoever. It performed everything it was supposed to very well. There was just an issue with the handling, and I'll get back to that later. For now, let me just talk about the edge. Like you saw, I handled it pretty roughly, and it has not suffered any damage. A nice thing about a tanto blade like that is that you have a straight edge all the way, both here and towards the tip. And a straight edge is the easiest to sharpen and to repair in general, maintain. So after all the chopping and batoning, let's test out how well the edge stood up. First of all, this is the edge as it came right out of the box. And here's the edge after the testing. It has developed a dull spot right here. Let me see if there's actually anything visible. This is where the edge catches in the cut. I can't really see too much. Well, it's a little rough there. But yeah, this is mainly where it wore down a little bit. Towards the tip, it has dulled significantly, which is not surprising. Check out the thinner phone book paper. Yeah, definitely you can tell there's this one dull spot, but otherwise it's still sharp enough to be usable. What I definitely noticed when working with it is that it has a considerable heft. Of course, thick blade, it is relatively heavy, although not really for the size, but it has quite a bit of impact, and it's useful for a variety of hard tasks because of the size. But let me talk about something that I'm absolutely not fond of, namely the design choice on the handle scales, which is quite frankly terrible, pretty much. For one, it's not ergonomic enough. It's basically a straight rectangular slab for the most part, aside from this section here, but that's not good enough. What it would really need in order to be effective for chopping is for the end part here towards the tang to be flared out. It would really have to widen here, because what I kept noticing again and again was while chopping, my hand just kept slipping down and down and down, and there's just nothing to hold it there. So I had to constantly readjust my grip because it just kept sliding out of my hand. It would eventually fly out of my hand if I didn't adjust constantly. It has a lanyard hole, and for this one I would definitely recommend putting a lanyard on there. There is some mild surface texturing here on the G10, but it doesn't help all that much. It slips way too much. And the other major problem, it's almost like a cube. It's just slightly rectangular with very light rounding off of the edges here, but that is not enough. This is just a block like that in the hand, just does not feel good at all. This would need to be rounded off a lot more to be comfortable. We would need more of a even transition towards the sides from the flat. This angle is just too steep, and it does not feel good. You get a lot of the hand shock that comes from chopping with it when you have such steep angles here. That is my main problem with this. The handle scales are not well designed, the grip is not ergonomically shaped, it is not very practical because of those problems. But of course the nice thing is that you can remove the handle scales easily. That doesn't fix the shape of the tang, of course, but you can replace them. Speaking of taking off the handle scales, one thing that I really like about this is if you take them off and you mount it onto a pole or a wooden stick or whatever you have handy, then you can actually use those holes here to lash it to the pole, which is quite nice. That will make for a very good improvised spear, so I quite like that. Another thing I have to complain about is the sheath. It's a Cordura sheath and it just seems pretty cheap, very thin. It doesn't feel durable at all, and it has this hard plastic insert, which basically is a good idea for protecting the sheath, but this one doesn't fit properly. It is way too tight. You have to really shove it in there pretty hard, which, yeah, I know it sounds dirty, but whatever. And the problem is, whenever you're pulling it out, it really rubs the sharp edge of the blade against the hard plastic, which of course is not good for the edge, nor for the insert. One good thing though is that it comes with sharpening stone. So that's a nice bonus. I guess you could take the stone and replace the sheath. But aside from those criticisms, I'm pretty satisfied with this. It is, for the price, $40, it is an excellent knife. It is made of pretty high quality steel for the price. And it is really thick and sturdy, so you don't have to worry about damaging it at all. It has a lot of heft to get the tougher tasks done. And it is very well designed aside from the handle. I quite frankly hate the handle. It is really, really not a good purposeful design. That is my major complaint. But if you're willing to put some work into it to replace the handle, or if you want to wait until they improve the design, I can definitely recommend this. It is just a good knife for the price.